strategy, brand management, research, etc. for about 25 years with some very big companies and some very small companies and some agencies and all of that. And my business right now, which is Audience Audit, focuses on audience segmentation. So in the whole Gangplank community, I am the person who gets the most blank stares when I tell people what I do, because nobody knows what I do. So today will serve a couple of purposes. If you don't know anything about audience segmentation, you'll learn a little about that today. And the way we're doing that, as Katie said, is to take you through the segmentation that we did for Gangplank. It's an opportunity to show you what that is and what it looks like, and also learn some really interesting things. I think they're interesting anyway about Gangplank. So, the first thing you have to understand is that people can choose the same thing for wildly different reasons, right? So people can buy the same product or choose the same brand or whatever and have fundamentally different reasons for doing that, which is why companies don't have one audience. You don't have one sort of group of people that all feel the same way about something, and you have to find out what that is and you give them that. You have multiple audiences for what you do, for the companies that you work for. So it's important to understand what it is that people are looking for, the reason that they're buying your product or interested in your brand or whatever, so that you can, as marketers, which sooner or later you sort of all are, whether you own a company or you've got your own business, you're working for somebody else. Our job is to figure out how to get what we do into the hands of the people who need it. So understanding those motivations is fundamentally important, and it's not just one. So that's the whole purpose of the work that I do. Gangplank is unique in that the community defines who it is, right? So unlike in a brand management situation where you're saying, this is what we are, this is what we represent, we have to get the word out, right? Gangplank is really sort of self-identifying. It's bubbling up on its own, and it's changed a lot in 3 years, in size, in locations, and in participants. So sort of understanding what Gangplank means today to the people who participate in this community is super important. In my mind, I love Gangplank, and I want to make sure that we continue to develop to the benefit of the people who want to be part of it, and understanding what they want is going to help us do that, so that we can make some decisions about, should we add this, should we go there, should we say that. So I just think it's an interesting project from that standpoint, and I think it's going to help us identify the things about Gangplank that are most relevant to people, and the messages about Gangplank that are going to have the biggest impact on trying to get the people that we want to be involved in the community involved in it. So the survey we did was online. We had 267 respondents complete the survey. How many of you guys took it? Okay, good chunk. So on average, it took people about 12 minutes to complete. So I know there were a lot of items, and that's a function of doing this particular type of research where you have to go through and rate all this stuff. But on average, it took people about 12 minutes to complete. We got 205 folks who say that this facility is their Gangplank, 23 out of Avondale, 20 of Tucson, and then some smaller numbers for the other two Gangplanks. So we did get participation from all of them, which I thought was good. But most of the data is going to be driven by Chandler folks, as you might imagine it would be. When we get all this data in and all those ratings, what we do is mathematically figure out the clusters of things that are important to people, that are making groups of people hang together and separating them from other groups, okay? And we're figuring out not a group of 5 people, right, but sort of bigger groups. So we're also sort of prioritizing the things that seem to matter for people and identifying the ones that seem to be more important versus the ones that are less important. It's called multivariate factor analysis. Some things, and you'll see this, are important to all of the segments or unimportant to all of the segments. And then some things are very segment specific. So we're going to talk about both of those so you get a sense of sort of who that is. Gangplank has 3 attitudinal segments. Number 1, Manifesto Lovers. Number 2, Business Builders. And 3, Facility Fans. We're going to talk about those so you'll understand a little bit who they are. Okay? Statistically, you can see they sort of even up the pie. That's a function of how the math is done. If there's a segment that's only 5%, it'll drop out because it's not big enough to sort of be statistically significant in the analytics. So you usually end up with a relatively sort of even count here. Let's look at what matters to the Gangplank community. There is broad agreement on a few things that are important and a few things that are not important regardless of segment, okay? So everybody thinks learning new things, discussions about new ideas, meeting new people, helping others with work, and having a place to go besides work or home are important, regardless of segment. This is universal. So when we think about the things that anybody walking in off the street might find appealing about Gangplank, these are the things that no matter what segment that person falls into, they're likely to appreciate about what we have to offer. Things that are not important to any of the segments. Hanging out with the cool kids, okay? Access to potential customers, overall, not important to any of the segments. Being a rebel or access to funding. Now that doesn't mean there aren't individuals in the community that prioritize those, but there's not enough of them to make that important to a segment, to a statistically significant group of people. Does that make sense? So if one of those things is important to you, I don't mean to discount it. We're looking at sort of bigger picture things here. So there can be, obviously, individuals who feel strongly about those things. Let's talk about segment one, which is the Manifesto Lovers. These people care more than the other segments do about making a difference, being involved in the local community, being part of something special, being active in making change, opportunities to get involved, civic involvement, fighting the status quo, socializing with friends, and volunteer opportunities. Okay, so these folks are really embracing what the Gangplank Manifesto talks about, right? It's a lot of the sort of do good, be there for people, volunteer, make a difference, make things happen, right? They care less about access to expertise of other members in the community, the free Wi-Fi, and access to the special equipment or the video and podcasting studios overall. Doesn't mean they don't care about those, but relative to the other segments, much less important to these groups, okay? So I call these guys Manifesto Lovers because that picture on the left, to me, is very close to sort of what the manifesto talks about, what Gangplank wants to be, making a difference. Segment two, facility fans. These people care a lot more about what we have here physically, okay? The free Wi-Fi, event facilities, special equipment, video and podcasting studios, photography equipment. And they care much less about some of those manifesto items, growing their network, making a difference, being involved in the community, expertise, being part of something special, learning about events, fighting the status quo, socializing, volunteer. Okay? These people are a lot more about what Gangplank offers from a very sort of real basis. The equipment we have here, the facility that we have here. Okay? It's important not to think of any of these segments as being better than other segments. They're just different. And if you look at the pie, they each represent about a third of what we got. The third segment is business builders. Care more than the others about growing their network, access to expertise of others in the community, learning about events, and the free Wi-Fi. Less about, you know, this sort of like idealistic approach to things, making things happen, being part of change, civic involvement, and less about sort of the equipment aspects of Gangplank. Here, these folks, why I call them business builders, it's really about, and remember that access to customers was kind of low for everybody, so it's not that per se. It seems to me that it's a lot, there's a networking and exposure and expertise thing happening here. This isn't one question we ask. This is a mathematical calculation of how they answer a whole bunch of different things. So you may not even think of yourself this way, but the analysis says that you are. Your focus is on this sort of business building component of Gangplank and the exposure that it gives you. One of the things we wanted to find out was how people are engaging with Gangplank. And we asked, if you took the survey, we asked questions about how often you go to Gangplank and how often you engage with the community outside of Gangplank. So what we see is the Manifesto Lovers over here on the left, the facility fans, and then the business builders. And what you see is down here in the purple, this is how long they've been involved with Gangplank. This is more than 3 years, 1 to 3, less than a year, and people who say they're not involved in the orange. So 30% of the facility fans say they're not involved with Gangplank at all. So they know about Gangplank. They took the survey. They can sort of rate what they think is important about Gangplank, but a third of them haven't actually like been here, don't like think of themselves as being engaged at all. Okay, and the other two groups are really similar. So we're seeing big chunks of folks that are sort of in this like 1 to 3 year or less than a year, which, you know, there's probably not that many people who have been involved in over 3 years, just because, boy, those were early days for Gangplank. Going to Gangplank, connecting off-site. Purple is every week, blue is every month, green is rarely, orange is never. So you can see some differences in the segments. The Manifesto Lovers are much more likely to be here every week and to connect off-site every week, right? So this group is really engaged physically and virtually on a frequent basis with the Gangplank community, much more than the others. Notice the facility fans on both sides, that orange is never. So never go, never connect through social. So some really different patterns of sort of, it's interesting to me that there are people who took the survey that can talk about Gangplank but really feel very disconnected from it or have never visited one. Maybe it's just too far away for them or whatever. Maybe they want to come but haven't been able to. But you can really see who's driving the physical contact and the virtual contact for the community. That's those Manifesto Lovers. Why we visit Gangplank, when we visit. So here you could choose any that were on the list. So this isn't going to add up to 100% because people could choose more than one. So the #1 reason people in the survey say they visit Gangplank is to attend an event. An event is a huge drawing in of new people to the community and people who don't engage with us any other way. Those events are extremely powerful in getting people here and getting people to know about us. Socializing, attending a brown bag, networking, working on my primary occupation or project, right? So my main job, you know, all in the 30s there. And then you get down to attend a lesson or training, attend a meeting, and then down in the 20s, you know, attending a meeting I've scheduled, volunteering, use a conference room, doing mentoring, 6% using the podcasting and video studios. So overall, it's event and then socializing. And this doesn't vary a lot by segment. Slight differences in sort of the Manifesto Lovers, the facility fans, and the business builders. You know, that overall, you can sort of see where the weight is on these things. The facility fans, as you might expect, are a little more likely to come here to use the facility, right? Use the podcasting, use the video or whatever. Business builders have mentoring on their list, training on their list, brown bags like this. Okay, where the Manifesto Lovers, there's a lot more sort of interest in things like volunteering and networking and socializing. Not surprising when you sort of know what's important to them, why they like the community. Not surprising to see the kinds of things that drive them to come. But overall, events are at the top for all of them. Manifesto Lovers are much more likely to engage with this community here and elsewhere. And almost a third of these people have never been to Gangplank at all. And there's a big chunk of them that never connect with the community offline either. So I think there's an opportunity there. I mean, that's a big difference between these two populations, both of which represent a third of our community, but a really big difference in how they're connecting with us, or if they're connecting with us. Some of them obviously like the fact that we have those things, but they haven't been here. So the fact that we have them is appealing to them. They think that's really important, but they haven't come. And some of it may be location. I mean, a lot of the comments when we ask people what could we do better, they're like, more Gangplanks, put one near me, you know. So the distance we are from a lot of our community presents some challenges. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me that there are so many people who like us for the facility component of us, but haven't actually maybe utilized those. Here's what we are consistently perceived to be: creative, intelligent, enthusiastic, involved, helpful, visionary, generous, welcoming, diverse, caring, and tolerant. That's a nice list, and that's consistent, okay? Sort of selfless, coders, professional, young, sensible, crazy, irreverent, or aggressive. Sort of in that middle range. What we are not perceived to be, now remember, this is our own community talking, so you know, some positivity is expected. Egotistical, exclusive, elitist, unrealistic, bitchy, bossy, annoying, or greedy. So I'm sure there are people in the community who feel that about us, and I'm sure if we did a broader study of people who didn't consider themselves part of this community, there would be some of those perceptions. But you know, this survey went out to everybody who was familiar with Gangplank, who knew anything about Gangplank. We didn't require that people come. We didn't require that they come once a week. So we have a certain range of people here. So, you know, I thought that was pretty good. The Manifesto Lovers are most likely to be complimentary. And the facility fans are most likely to be negative. Okay? Now, the facility fans are much less engaged with our community in general. So their first-person understanding of who we are and connection to individuals in this community is a lot lower than it is for Manifesto Lovers. But, right or wrong, they do have a little more negative perception of what Gangplank is than the people who are more involved in it. So one of the things that's always interested me is this Gangplankers question, right? Because some of us talk about ourselves as Gangplankers. Sometimes Gangplank talks about us as Gangplankers. And I just wondered, like, how do people feel about Gangplankers? So the question on the left is, do you consider yourself to be a Gangplanker? Right? Green, yes. Orange, sort of. Red, no. Okay? So the facility fans are much less likely to think of themselves as Gangplankers. The Manifesto Lovers are more so. But there's sort of a range. What's interesting is when you ask the follow-up question is, do you want other people to think of you as a Gangplanker? And look at those numbers. So for the facility fans, only 23% of them say they are a Gangplanker, but 40% say they would like to be thought of as one. It's aspirational for all of the groups to be considered a Gangplanker. There are very few over here that say, I don't want to be a Gangplanker. There's some that say, I don't care, right? But very few say no. And the numbers on, yeah, I do wish people thought of me that way, are higher across the board than people who think of themselves that way. So for those people who want to be considered Gangplankers, we need to make them feel like they're Gangplankers, because that's what they want. Other characteristics that we learned. Okay, so when we describe ourselves, purple is GP anchors, blue is co-workers or drop-ins, green is event attendees, orange is volunteers, there's a dark orange that's very small that's municipal employees, and there's purple who's other. So you can see the Manifesto Lovers have more anchors than the other groups, but they don't have all the anchors. There are facility fans that are part of the anchor population as well, and business builders. Co-workers, a lot more co-workers in the business builder side of things than you see in the other two segments, right? So we're disproportionately in collecting business builders as drop-ins, which is probably not a bad thing. Everybody's about the same on events and the other measures. There's sort of this other thing for facility fans. Age is pretty consistent. So 18 to 25 in purple on the left here, 26 to 35 in blue, 36 to 45 in green, 46 to 55 in orange, and then the top is 56 to 65. We didn't have anybody over 65 that took the survey. So, you know, we've got, I guess, the Manifesto Lovers tend to be a little bit older than the other two groups, but not dramatically, like. And same with gender. Males in purple, females in blue. Not dramatically different by segments. And I always see these slides, these demographic slides, when I do these studies, and they're always like this. There's always no difference between the segments, which always tells me that when we're segmenting things demographically, we're missing this whole story, because we're like saying, women are over here and men are over here, or let's target over 18, or let's target under 40. It's just not what's really happening, because there's a lot of consistency here between the segments. Your segment doesn't depend on what your gender or your age is. Employment, purple is employed full-time for a company that you don't own, right? Part-time in blue, green is employed by yourself, and orange is a student. So these business builders, much more likely to be self-employed. So again, much more likely to be the drop-ins, right? These are entrepreneurs in this population to a greater extent than you see in the other two. Household income, not huge shifts here. Purple is less than $10,000, blue is $150,000 or more, so you can see it sort of ranges up. These facility fans guys are a little more in the 50 to 74K in the orange there, but nothing too crazy. You got some bigger numbers over here on the Manifesto Lovers a little bit. Okay, so the other thing we did was ask people how they felt about messages about Gangplank, because one of the things we have to do as a community is get the word out effectively to the people that we want to reach. So the question is, which messages are good for folks?
Yes.
Quite honestly, all of the messages that we tested rated very well. These are the top ones. Collaboration over competition, welcomes all kinds of people, it's free for all, and it's a community, not just a place. Universally appealing and at the top of the list to every segment in the survey. So we can safely say those and know that we're hitting the mark with everybody who's currently part of our community and people like us who aren't. So we asked for suggestions from people. What could we do to make Gangplank better? I don't remember how we worded it. So the Manifesto Lovers expectedly they just want more. They just want more Gangplank. They want more locations. They want more stuff going on. They want more events. They just like Gangplank and they want more. These are just some quotes from the verbatims. We had a number of people who said, boy, I really wish I could participate after work in things like brown bags and stuff like that, because if you go back and remember, like 30% of these people are working for a company that isn't theirs full time. So they can't be here during the day. You know, and we have a huge swath of people across the community that are like that, and they clearly feel like there's content they miss out on because it can't get away. So they want stuff in the evenings, they want stuff on the weekends. Facility fans, I love this comment. Tell us what the heck it is you guys do specifically, right? There are a lot of questions from the facility fans about what, I don't get it. I go there, I sort of feel a little confused. I don't really know what it is. I'm not sure what you guys do. I haven't been involved enough to say. I really wish I felt more welcome and invited. And this is a really interesting quote. Gangplank is just a building that anyone can go to. Remember that. So this is, to me, an interesting challenge with this particular segment. They are less engaged. They're here less frequently. Okay? They're more in tune with the amenities we offer, the hard amenities like a podcasting studio, right? I'm not surprised that somebody says that. It's just a building anybody can go to. Because by and large, these folks have not really been sort of onboarded into sort of the bigger aspects of Gangplank beyond just the building we can all go to. I think there's an opportunity there for some of these folks. They're just not as engaged, they're just not as connected. They don't speak as highly of us. They're just sort of out on the fringes a little bit. And I think this population is one that we really sort of need to try to understand a little bit better and maybe work with. Because I think people who are facility fans now could become a Manifesto lover. Maybe they just don't get it. Maybe they just haven't been here enough, they don't know us well enough, they don't feel connected to us. So, I thought that was interesting. Business builders, location, location, location. Okay, I need more Gangplanks near me. I need more networking opportunities. Trade services for credits in a barter system. So put every Gangplanker in a system with what they do and what they're willing to trade, and set up a barter system within the Gangplank community to use each other's services. Interesting idea. Part-time anchor opportunities to allow more people to participate as anchors. So people who can't be here 4 or 5 days a week, or have a very small staff so they can't divvy it up, still want to be more a part of driving what's happening at Gangplank, but they don't feel like they have that opportunity necessarily from an anchor standpoint. After hours and weekend networking, less pushing of ideology. Remember, these guys are a little less of the do-gooders, a little less of the let's make change, let's totally crumble the US education system and do something different. They're a little more focused on their business, right? Ways to network, an available network of each Gangplanker and their company. So there were a number of requests for that, like who is it? Who is the community? What does everybody do? What does their company do? I don't even know. And you can understand from a business builder standpoint, if you're looking for expertise, right? Something like that would be really valuable, because you walk in here, you don't have any idea who anybody is, really, and what they do. I mean, I've been part of this community for 3 years, and there are plenty of people here who have no idea what I do, which is fine, but if you're a business builder, it's valuable to know that information. So now what do we do? So from my standpoint, I look at these segments and I think, okay, for these manifesto lovers, these are proselytizers. These people have bought in fully to what Gangplank envisions itself to be and can be. They're idealists, right? So how do we harness that, right? How do we get them to make it easier for them to talk about Gangplank and bring people in? How do we use their passion when we need volunteers and contributors and new content and stuff like that? Like, these are the people that will work on behalf of Gangplank because they really believe what Gangplank's all about. More than any of the other segments do, they believe it. So how do we harness that? For those facility fans, how do we help them learn a little better what Gangplank's about beyond the building we can all go to, right? How can we provide facilities and amenities that will actually get them here so that we have an opportunity to kind of deepen their relationship with us, or their understanding, and can sort of become a more robust contributing member of the community and hopefully beneficiary of it as well. And for the business builders, networking. Like, they want networking not just for new customers, but to help their business, to help them learn how to do things better, right? Learn from people who are more experienced than them. Remember, a huge chunk of these people are entrepreneurs. And as one myself, and a lot of you guys are too, sometimes you just don't know what to do. You don't know what, you have a problem and you can't solve it. And having expertise around you from people who have done that and been there is hugely valuable. So how do we support that? And how do we take the expertise of the people in this community and unleash it so that there are others who can take advantage of it? Maybe it is as simple as just letting people know who's here and what we do and what we can offer, what our expertise is, whether our company does that or not. We all have things that we've done in our careers that maybe we don't use every day now, but we could help with. So how can we sort of make that more real for this population?